I was standing near the entrance of the restaurant when I heard it. "Yeah, my stepdad's broke and pathetic. He doesn't even own anything." The words came from across the dining room, clear, loud enough that the hostess glanced at me. I didn't move. I just stood there holding the door open for an older couple walking in and pretended I hadn't heard. But I had. The voice belonged to Marcus, my wife's 26-year-old son. He was sitting at a large corner table with 5 of his friends, all of them dressed like they'd just walked out of a streetwear catalog. Expensive sneakers, designer jackets, confidence that only comes from never having paid for anything yourself. I had paid for that table. I had paid for the reservation Marcus made under my name. I had paid for the appetizers they were already eating. And in about 30 minutes, I would be expected to pay for the rest. That was the arrangement. Marcus called it a family favor. My wife called it helping out. I used to call it love. Now I wasn't sure what to call it. I walked toward the table slowly. I wasn't angry yet. I was something else, something quieter, something I didn't have a name for. "Hey, Bill," one of Marcus's friends said as I approached. His name was Trevor. I'd met him twice. Both times, he didn't make eye contact. "Hey," I said. Marcus didn't look up. He was mid-sentence, telling some story about a car he wanted to buy, a BMW, used but still $40,000. He talked about it like it was already his. "You good?" I asked him. He glanced at me, barely. "Yeah, we're fine." "Need anything?" "Nah, we'll order in a bit." I nodded. I stood there for a second longer than I should have, just to see if he'd say anything else. He didn't. So I walked back toward the bar and sat down on a stool near the corner where I could still see the table, but didn't have to be part of it. The bartender asked if I wanted a drink. I ordered a ginger ale. I wasn't much of a drinker, never had been. My father was, and I spent most of my childhood watching what it did to him, so I stayed away from it. My wife knew that. Marcus knew that too. Still, every time we went out, Marcus would make some joke about me ordering kiddie drinks. His friends would laugh. My wife would smile like it was harmless. It wasn't harmless. I sipped the ginger ale and watched the table from a distance. They were loud, laughing. One of them was filming something on his phone. Marcus was leaning back in his chair like he owned the room. He didn't. I did. Not the restaurant, but the car that would pay for everything they were about to eat, the car that brought them here, the house they'd all been to for barbecues and pool parties, the furniture they sat on, the Wi-Fi they used to post photos nobody cared about. I owned all of it. But to Marcus, I was broke and pathetic. She was recently divorced, raising Marcus on her own, and working 2 jobs to keep things together. She was tired. I could see it in her eyes the first time we talked, but she was also kind, funny, real. I'd been single for a long time, 10 years maybe. I'd been married once before, briefly, in my 20s, no kids. It ended quietly, the way most things in my life did. I didn't talk about it much. When I met Karen, I wasn't looking for anything serious. But she made me laugh. She made me feel like I wasn't just going through the motions anymore. And Marcus, back then, seemed like a good kid. Quiet. Polite enough, a little distant, but I figured that was normal. I wasn't his father. I didn't expect him to treat me like one. Karen and I got married 2 years later, small ceremony. Just us, Marcus, and a few friends. I paid for everything. The venue, the food, the photographer. I didn't mind. I had the money, and I wanted her to feel like she didn't have to worry anymore. I'd worked in logistics for 23 years. I wasn't rich, but I was comfortable. I owned my house outright, no mortgage, my car was paid off. I had savings, investments, a retirement account that I contributed to every month without fail. I wasn't flashy. I didn't buy things I didn't need. I didn't care about impressing people, but I was stable, secure, and for Karen, after years of barely scraping by, that seemed to mean everything. Marcus moved in with us after the wedding. He was 20 at the time, working part-time at a cell phone store, going to community college on and off. He didn't pay rent. I didn't ask him to. Karen said he was trying to figure things out, and I believed her. I told him he could stay as long as he needed. I meant it. For the first year, things were fine. He was respectful. Said thank you when I paid for groceries or covered his car insurance. He even helped around the house sometimes, mowed the lawn, took out the trash. But somewhere around year 2, something shifted. He stopped saying thank you. He stopped helping. He started acting like everything I did was expected, like I owed him. And Karen, instead of correcting him, started defending him. He's still figuring things out, Bill. He's under a lot of stress. You know how hard it is for his generation. I didn't argue. I just kept paying. His car insurance, his phone bill, his credit card payments when he overspent, his share of utilities, even though he used more electricity than both of us combined. I paid for his friends to come over and eat our food. I paid for his gas. I paid for the new laptop he needed for school, even though I never saw him use it for anything except gaming. I told myself it was temporary, that eventually he'd get on his feet, that he'd appreciate it someday. But he didn't, and the more I gave, the less he respected me. He looked confused, probably wondering why I was sitting alone while my stepson and his friends took up half the restaurant. I didn't explain. From where I sat, I could hear pieces of their conversation. Marcus was talking about a trip he wanted to take, Vegas. His friends were hyping him up, asking if he was really going to do it. Yeah, man, I just need to figure out the timing. Timing, not money, because he didn't think about money. He never had to. I thought about the last time I'd taken a vacation. It was 4 years ago. Karen and I went to a cabin upstate for a long weekend. It was quiet, peaceful. We hiked, we read. We didn't do anything expensive. I remembered feeling guilty for spending the money, even though I'd saved for it. Marcus had been to Miami, New York, and Los Angeles in the past 2 years, all on my dime. I finished my ginger ale and ordered another one. When Marcus was 23, he got into an accident, nothing serious. He rear-ended someone at a stoplight because he was looking at his phone. The other driver was fine, but Marcus's car was totaled. He didn't have collision coverage. I'd told him to add it when I started paying his insurance, but he said it was too expensive. So when the car was gone, he didn't have a way to get to work, or school, or anywhere. He asked if he could borrow mine. I said yes. For 2 weeks, I drove Karen's car while Marcus used mine. He put 300 miles on it in that time. Didn't offer to fill the tank. Didn't say thank you. When I finally asked if he thought about getting a new car, he looked at me like I was insane. With what money? I didn't answer. I knew what he was really asking. A week later, I co-signed on a used Honda for him. $12,000. I put down $4,000 so the monthly payments would be manageable. He made the first 2 payments. Then he stopped. The dealership called me. I paid the rest. 14 months of payments. I never told Karen. Marcus still drove that car. He complained about it constantly, said it was embarrassing, that his friends made fun of him for it. I didn't say anything, but I remembered. One of them was arguing about something, his voice bouncing off the walls. The people at the tables nearby kept glancing over, annoyed but too polite to say anything. I wondered if Marcus even noticed. Probably not. I pulled out my phone and checked my bank account. It was a habit I'd developed over the past year, just looking at the numbers, making sure everything was still there. It was. I had been careful. Even with all the money I'd spent on Marcus, I'd never let my savings dip below a certain point. I had rules, boundaries I didn't cross. Not that anyone knew about them. Karen thought I spent freely. She thought I didn't worry about money. And maybe from the outside it looked that way. But I worried. I worried about what would happen if I lost my job. I worried about what would happen if I got sick. I worried about running out of time to build the kind of security I needed to feel safe. And I worried about what would happen if I kept giving everything away. He was 51. He worked in construction his whole life. He drank his whole life, too. By the time I was old enough to understand what was happening, it was too late to do anything about it. He didn't leave me anything. No savings, no house, no advice. just debt. I spent my entire 20s paying off his credit cards and medical bills. It took me 7 years to get out from under it. I swore I'd never end up like him. I swore I'd build something stable, something that couldn't be taken away. And I did. But now, sitting in that restaurant, watching Marcus laugh with his friends while I held the bill in my hand, I realized something. It didn't matter, because I'd given it all away anyway, not legally, not officially, but in every way that mattered. It was Karen. Yeah, we're almost done. No, he's here. I don't know, like at the bar or something. Yeah, I'll tell him. He hung up without saying goodbye. Your mom? One of his friends asked. Yeah, she wanted to make sure Bill was actually here. They all laughed. I didn't. I knew what the number would be. I opened it. $273 for 6 people, none of whom had acknowledged me in over an hour. I sat there staring at the receipt. I thought about paying it. I thought about walking over to the table, dropping my card, and letting Marcus and his friends keep laughing. That's what I'd always done. But then I thought about the words I'd heard when I walked in. Yeah, my stepdad's broke and pathetic. I thought about the car payments I'd made, the insurance, the phone bills, the rent he didn't pay, the groceries, the trips, the everything. I thought about Karen at home, probably watching TV, assuming everything was fine, and I realized something. I wasn't broke, but I was pathetic, not because I didn't have money, but because I kept giving it to someone who didn't even see me as human. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I made a decision. The confidence drained. Wait, what? No, you said you were paying. I changed my mind. His friends went quiet. All of them, the entire table. Bill, come on, don't be like that. Like what? He didn't answer. He just stared at me. I didn't move. I don't have money for this, he said. Then I guess you'll need to figure it out. I turned and walked toward the door. I didn't look back. Behind me, I heard Marcus calling my name. His voice was different now, smaller. I kept walking. When I got to my car, my hands were shaking. I sat in the driver's seat and stared at the steering wheel. I didn't feel good, but I didn't feel bad either. I felt something else, something I hadn't felt in years. I sat in the car for a few minutes before going in. When I finally walked through the door, Karen was on the couch. She looked up. How was dinner? Fine. Where's Marcus? Still there? She frowned. You left without him? He had a ride. She didn't say anything for a moment. Then, did something happen? I thought about answering. I thought about telling her everything. But I didn't. No, I said. Nothing happened. I went upstairs and got ready for bed. I didn't hear from Marcus that night. He didn't come home much. When he did, he went straight to his room. Karen asked me what happened. I told her the truth. Not all of it, just enough. I left him with the bill. She looked at me like I'd said something in a foreign language. Why would you do that? Because he called me broke and pathetic in front of his friends. She didn't believe me at first. Then she called Marcus. He denied it. She believed him. I didn't argue. 2 weeks later, Marcus's car broke down. He called me from the side of the highway. The engine's done. The mechanic said it's going to cost like $3,000 to fix. I didn't say anything. Bill, did you hear me? I heard you. So, can you help? I thought about it. I thought about all the times I'd helped before. No, I said, Ma. What? I said no. Are you serious? Yeah. He hung up. Karen was furious. She said I was being cruel, that I was punishing him for something small. I didn't argue. I just stopped. 6 months after the restaurant, I was sitting in my home office when I got an email from my bank. It was a fraud alert. Someone had tried to open a credit card in my name. I called the number on the email. They walked me through the details. The application had been submitted online. It included my Social Security number, my address, my date of birth. But it wasn't me. They flagged it because the email address on the application didn't match the one they had on file. Do you know who might have access to this information? The representative asked. I did. You don't have to decide now, she said, but you should file a police report. Even if you don't press charges, it creates a paper trail. I filed the report the next day. I moved out a month later. I didn't make a big deal about it. I just rented a small apartment across town and started packing. Karen cried. She asked me to stay. She said we could work it out. I told her I didn't think we could. "Is this about Marcus?" she asked. "It's about a lot of things." She didn't understand. I didn't expect her to. I still save. I still follow the same routines I always have. But something's different. I don't feel guilty anymore. I don't feel like I owe anyone anything. Marcus called me once, a few weeks after I moved out. He didn't apologize. He just asked if I was done being mad. I told him I wasn't mad. I told him I was done. He hung up. I haven't heard from him since. I don't feel sadness. I feel relief. Because for the first time in years, I'm not carrying anyone else. I'm just carrying me. And that's enough. No one else's opinion about the furniture or the color of the walls. I bought a couch from a second-hand store, a bed frame I assembled myself, plates, cups, silverware, all from Target. I didn't need matching sets. I just needed enough. The first night I slept there, I woke up at 3 in the morning and didn't know where I was. The room was dark. The shadows were unfamiliar. For a second I felt panic, the kind that sits in your chest and makes it hard to breathe. Then I remembered, and the panic faded. I got up, made a cup of tea, and sat by the window. The city lights stretched out below me. I watched them for a long time. I didn't think about anything in particular. I just watched. It was the first time in years I'd felt still. If I needed anything, if I was coming back. I kept my responses short. I'm fine. I don't need anything. I'm not coming back. Eventually, the messages got shorter too. Then they stopped altogether. I didn't miss them. I liked it that way. But about a month after I moved out, my boss, Raymond, pulled me into his office. "You doing okay?" he asked. "Yeah." "Why?" "You've seemed, I don't know, distant." I didn't know how to explain that I felt the opposite, that for the first time in years I was actually present. "I'm good," I said. He studied me for a second, then he nodded. "All right, just checking." I went back to my desk and got back to work. Around that same time, I started going to the gym, not because I wanted to get in shape, not because I had some goal. I just needed somewhere to be that wasn't work or the apartment. I'd tried gyms before, years ago, back when I was younger, and thought I should care about things like muscle mass and endurance. It never stuck. This time, I didn't care about results. I just went. 3 times a week, sometimes 4. I'd walk on the treadmill for 30 minutes, lift a few weights, then leave. No one bothered me. No one tried to start conversations. I liked it. I just felt confirmed. I called Angela, the lawyer I'd spoken to about the credit card fraud. "Can you handle this too?" I asked. "Separation? Yeah. It's not my specialty, but I can help. Or I can refer you to someone." "Just handle it," I said. "I don't want it to drag out." "All right, I'll file a response. Do you want to contest anything?" "No. I just want it done." She paused. "Okay, I'll take care of it. Thanks." I hung up and went back to my routine. You're kind. You're patient. You don't just give up on people. I thought about that. About all the years I'd spent being kind, being patient, giving people chance after chance. "You're right," I said. "I don't give up on people. But eventually, people give up on me. I didn't give up on you. You chose him over me, every time." She didn't respond. I hung up. The subject line was empty. The message was short. "Can we talk?" I stared at it for a long time. I thought about responding. I thought about what I would say, but I didn't. I deleted it. "Well, I don't." "All right then, I'll send you the paperwork. Sign where I marked and send it back." "Thanks, Angela." "Anytime, Bill." I hung up and went for a walk. Karen always handled that. But I found I didn't mind it. It was meditative, predictable. I also started reading again. I'd been a big reader as a kid, but somewhere along the way, I'd stopped. Now I picked it back up. Mysteries mostly. The kind where everything gets resolved in the end. I liked knowing there would be an answer. We'd worked together years ago, back when I was in a different department. She was retired now, living off her pension, and traveling when she could. We were both at the same coffee shop. She saw me first. "Bill?" she said, walking over. I looked up. "Patricia, hey. I almost didn't recognize you. You look different." "Different how?" She studied me. "I don't know. Lighter, maybe?" I didn't know how to respond to that, so I just smiled. We talked for a while. She asked about Karen. I told her we'd separated. She didn't pry. She just nodded and said she was sorry. "Are you doing okay?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. "I think I am." She smiled. "Good. You deserve that." I didn't know if I deserved it, but I was starting to believe I could have it anyway. No charges had been filed, but the application had been permanently flagged and denied. I saved the email. I didn't know why. Maybe just to have proof. Proof that I hadn't imagined it. Proof that I'd been right. One night I was sitting by the window with a book when my phone rang. It was Karen. I stared at the screen for a long time before answering. "Hello?" "Bill," she said. Her voice was calm, steady. "I'm not calling to argue. I just wanted to say something." I didn't respond. I just waited. "I've been thinking a lot," she said, "about everything. About you, about Marcus, about how things ended." I still didn't say anything. "I think I understand now," she continued. "Why you left, why you stopped helping. I didn't see it before, but I see it now." I closed the book. "Okay, I'm sorry," she said, "for not seeing it sooner. I didn't know what to say to that." "I don't expect anything from you," she added. "I just wanted you to know." "Okay," I said again. We sat in silence for a moment. "Take care of yourself, Bill," she said. "You too." She hung up. I set the phone down and looked out the window. I didn't feel vindicated. I didn't feel triumphant. I just felt done. I started going to a diner on Sunday mornings. Same booth every time. Same waitress. She knew my order by the third week. "Usual?" she'd ask. "Yeah." She'd smile and walk away. It was small, simple, but it felt like mine. He looked different, thinner, tired. He saw me too. For a second we just looked at each other. Then he ended his call and walked over. "Hey," he said. "Hey. I heard you and Karen split up." "Yeah." He nodded, looked down at his shoes. "Marcus talks about you sometimes." I didn't say anything. "He knows he screwed up," Trevor continued. "He won't say it, but he knows." "Okay." Trevor looked at me. "For what it's worth, I always thought you were a good guy. I think we all did. We just didn't know how to say it." I didn't know what to say to that either. "Anyway," he said, "take care, man. You too." He walked away. I stood there for a moment watching him go. Then I kept walking. I didn't feel broke either, even though I'd spent years being told I was. I felt whole. Not because I'd won some battle, not because anyone had apologized or admitted they were wrong, but because I'd stopped fighting. I'd stopped trying to prove something to people who didn't care. I'd stopped carrying weight that wasn't mine to carry, and in the space that was left, I'd found something I didn't know I'd lost, myself. I spent it alone. I didn't mind. I made dinner for myself, watched a movie, went to bed early. It was quiet. It was peaceful. Because I'm not waiting for them to understand. I'm not waiting for closure or apologies or explanations. I'm just living. Quietly, simply, on my own terms. And for the first time in years, that's enough. The car ride home, the apartment I found, the life I built. And I realized that moment, as painful as it was, gave me something. It gave me permission. Permission to stop. Permission to walk away. Permission to choose myself. I don't regret it. Not for a second.